welcome back to another episode of Mooncap SMP. You've caught me on my way back from a little bit of mining. You see, we're gonna need a lot of materials for our lovely little towers here. So I went ahead to our volcano area here and dug a little bit, but you'll see that in the time lapse that I made. But we just made it back. Oh, thank goodness. I hate venturing out for so long. Alright. We have so many diamonds now, which is insane to think about. But we don't have many emeralds. Now, even though I did just make my way back home, we need to enchant this sword because got lifesteal as well as like some good attack on it, which I am gonna need. I was gonna do a little bada bing, bada boom. Okay. Now the good news is we have mending. Now we have a mending book. I am torn between placing it upon our sword or on our pants. I think I'm going to place it upon our sword because we have enough diamonds that we can rebuild our pants if need be, and we can repair the boots as well with said diamonds. We have enough. But this episode, I want to start planning out the base. I also might... I want to see something. I want to see... Let's do this little corner. That looks a lot better, I think. It gets that darker feel to it. So we might transition the entirety of these into bath salt, but that is going to be a later project. Now, I am going to run this into a creative because I want to use, I have Axiom installed, and I learned that apparently there is a way to set for natural shading depending on where you put the sun. And so what I want to do is, because this is the way, this here, at like this diagonal or this diagonal, is the way most people are going to see our base. So if I have, so imagine, if you will, if I have the texturing as if it's being lit up by this side, right? Then I can have it have a more natural gradient that way. So we're going to hop into a single player testing world, and we are going to get this done. Let me just mark down my chords real quick. All right, I will see you guys in the creative world. Okay, so did not realize that this is not same world, but let's see if I can /TP. Okay, I'm just gonna go back here. So wow, okay. Hello, everybody. In this segment, I just want to talk a bit about what the overall plan is, goal, and generally what we're going for with our base. Like I said I think it was in 2 episodes ago. We're going for whimsy. We're going for whimsical cottagecore type shebang, you know? But how is a tower going to be whimsy? Well, you see, there's a wonderful little thing called moss, and adding a metric shit ton of moss to your build makes it whimsical. I don't make the rules. It's just, that's how it is. But what I'm currently doing in this clip here is I am working with a mod called Axiom. Which, if you haven't heard of Axiom, it is a brilliant building tool that is very complicated, but also not at the same time. It's a bit confusing, but it gives you a bunch of different tools and items to use to better your terraining, your building, and other things, as well as like gradient, able to do like an auto gradient and other things as well. I'm messing with Axiom because I want to see. This is how I was able to visualize and work out the gradient that we need. One of the tools in Axiom allows you to actually place blocks in your inventory, or in an inventory, that gives you the gradient to use, the in-between blocks to use. It's what that little item that looks like a brush on the bottom, on the left side. It gives you the gradients of in between, so you can place, I want, say, a black block at the end of it, and I want a white block at the beginning. Depending on how many, I will show you later in the clips, but depending on how many spaces between, it gives you a larger gradient of what blocks you would need. And you can just, in the creative menu, you can just grab them and place them in your inventory exactly how they're laid out, which is really cool. But we get into that a little bit later. Right now, I'm building a mock-up of the tower, at least the smaller tower that we have in the main world. The reason for this mock-up is fairly quite simple. It's so that I can get a general layout of how many blocks I want the actual towers to be in their layering, and what I want to do for the gradient and patterning. Originally, the thought process I had when working on this and working on Axiom was there is a tool in Axiom that allows you to create a texturing and gradient based on the point on a spot that you create that would be the sun, essentially. So imagine now that that village is where you'd come, so you see the base from this diagonal. Well, we can set it up to where that area is lighter than the rest of the build, because that's the area you're looking at. It was, in theory, a really good idea, which I didn't know Axiom had until I was watching Grian. So thank you, Grian, for messing around with Axiom, so then I can mess around with Axiom. That's how this works, right? Inspiration hits when you're watching YouTube. But it was an idea I thought of because of that, and I wanted to give it a try here. This is me trying to find the damn tool. I laughed when I figured out which one it was. But it's really simple. It is really simple. But that was the general idea. But in the end, which we see a little later into this clip, I decide against it. And I'll get into that once we get there. But right now, I want to go back to the overall vibe, the overall aesthetic, and the idea that we are going for in this world. So, like I said, we're going for a nice cottage core vibe or whimsy or however you want to think of it or put it. The idea is if it's whimsical, if it's magical, if it feels like it does, like it lives in a fairy tale or in a fairy world, congratulations, that's going into the castle. So the idea is going to be, we're going to have amethyst shards, we're going to have, like I said earlier, we're going to have moss, we're going to have lots of different objects that evoke that sense of wonder and that like sense of like, ooh, you know, without the sense of trauma like Bridge to Terabithia. I still do not forgive that movie. I was promised whimsy, instead got depression. I guess that's life, but moving on. Yeah, so that's going to be the general idea of the tower and the towers, and both towers are going to be different vibes almost. The smaller tower is going to be something that's just going to be mainly storage or necessities, like, whereas the big tower is going to be the main point of the base. And I may or may not add a third tower on the back of the main tower just to give more like depth. I'm not entirely sure yet. I haven't fully planned out this build. This is me testing out Axiom, testing out what I even want to do with the build, let alone how I want to build the tower. But once you get your general idea, and once you get your gradient, if you're going for that, or what you want the build to feel like, look like, the buildings do start to come together a lot easier. Here, for example, I found the tool I needed to do the sun texturing that I was talking about. It's the first tool. It is literally the wand tool, and gives you operations of auto shade. So you can create shading based on your location or a location you set of what the sun is, and then you have a bunch of different options to create it. And I tried it out a little bit, thinking, okay, let's see how this works, but it kept changing the blocks, as you can see, which was not something I wanted. I didn't want it to change the entire building from it. I wanted to give the auto shading, like, I wanted to make it lighter and then go back and then fade back to the bath salt in the back. But for whatever reason, it wasn't doing it, and because I didn't want to spend longer than I needed to on this episode, which I already spent a very long time working on this episode, I did end up decide to scrap this idea and instead focus on a normal gradient, something I'm sure you're all very familiar with at this point, because it has basically taken over the entirety of the Minecraft building community. Gradients and shading and all the different noise and texturing have become so mainstream and so everywhere. It's hard to miss. And obviously, as a builder, I need to jump on that bandwagon as well, or otherwise I won't be able to grow. So here you can see the gradient helper. This is what I was talking about earlier. It gives you an input on what you can put between the items. And then if you don't like one option, you can shuffle through it to find another option and then use that. There, I realized that I put the gradient in the wrong spot, so I fixed it. And I realized that I need the deep slate, which we're using, to give us a better gradient. And I realized that we can just get away with maybe only 4 other blocks here, and we'll still get that look and the aesthetic that we're going for, because in actuality, the towers don't need to be that big, and if they are that big, we can easily just have the gradient rise with it. And that's I guess that's the hard thing when it comes to these builds where you're kind of just going like, let's go for it, which is what I'm doing here, because I, again, didn't plan anything out. When you don't plan out a build like this, you do get caught up in different details, in different ways of building. At least I find that I get caught up like that for me. But with the gradient helper, it is so much easier to figure out a good gradient from point A to point B to give you the aesthetic that you're looking for. Like here, I now know I want to go from deep slate bath salt to, in this I chose dead to coral, but we have a lot of tuff, which is roughly the same like color, just different texturing. So we're probably going to use that instead. But there we have our gradient. It goes from dark to dark, really dark gray to a nice light, to a nice white color. And we use different grays and different whites to get to that point. And the gradient helper is great because it gives you the in-betweens. You don't have to worry about searching through the entire Minecraft block set. And especially when you're playing modded, going through multiple block sets just to find that one texture that works well with this one specific block. Axiom is a fantastic tool to use specifically for this, at least I find it. And with this as well, this is the gradient painter. It gives you a rough idea, at least, on what the gradient would look like. See? So like here, this is more or less what the gradient would look like. It took a few tries to get this right. Like I said, I'm still trying to figure out this. I'm still trying to figure this out. And it, look away. It's embarrassing how many times I messed this up. But that would be more or less what the gradient looks like. Is that it would go from the deep slate to the white logs there. Now, I did mess up in this in using cobbled deep slate when we are using tiled deep slate in the actual build. But also, we're not going to see the tiled deep slate because it's in the basement. So, in the end, it doesn't really matter. But, yeah, honestly, this was a lot of fun to do. I do really enjoy figuring out and working on different building tools such as this or World Edit. I think Axiom and World Edit together might have been a better choice for me, but because I'm playing on a server that doesn't have those tools, I didn't want to overcomplicate things by trying to get it like that. But yeah, I thought I'd give the auto shading a try, but it didn't really work. But that's pretty much what I wanted to do here, was just check out, see how it worked, and see what we could do. But we have our gradient. Let's go. Let's hop back into the main world. I don't know why I keep getting hurt every time I spawn in. Maybe I'm getting attacked by it. I don't know. Alright, but we have our gradient. So what I might do then is I might not have these be our little, like, corner bits. I might use something else for that then. And then I might just have these actually be part of the full tower as a gradient. But we have our gradients. What I'm going to need to do then is I need to connect this. That. Okay, so now we have at least a start of a corridor. This is going to be a small one. Yeah, we'll just have it like that. We're making progress! I'm happy. I am happy about that. We are starting to make progress. It does... That's fine. That's totally fine. Don't worry about that. But we're starting to make progress. Now, before we celebrate... I mean, we are pretty good on. We're really. I might actually have to build this. At least most of the tower. Okay, you know what? I'm itching to build, and I think with the resources that we've gathered so far, we have enough, with the bare minimum, start the project. So, without further ado, I am going to hop into time lapse, and I'll see y'all when I'm done. Alrighty then! After that time lapse, we got a lot done. Holy shit. Holy crap. Alright. As you can see, I've, I've done so much right now, and I'm very proud of it. And it wasn't even that long of a time. There. So we built up both towers here, as you can see. And I also, more or less, finished the actual basement, our actual, like, little starter hut. I switched out all of the tough, the smooth basalt, so that it has a more uniform look with our big boy here. Okay. And I see him finish up that area, but got all of that. That looks good. Clean up some of the mess here, and start the staircase where this continue. Most likely, I might actually stop it way and do like spiral up. Ooh, that might be. Yeah, I'm gonna do that probably. We're gonna do that, but we have a lot of tough now, meaning our gradient will be able to continue. Like, look at that. We have stacks upon stacks of tough. We also have coal, blocks of coal, and mud to use as well. So we have good things. We also have a metric ton of smooth basalt, meaning that is very good. Turns out I mined too much, but hey, better to be overly prepared than to be underprepared. That's what I like to say. But unfortunately, this is all I have time for today. So, thank you all so much for watching this episode. I hope you enjoyed the multitude of time lapses I did. And I hope to see you in the next one. Now, make sure, please, go check out all the other people a part of this SMP. They are fantastic. We literally can't do this without them. You can find all of their links in the description below. And if you aren't already, why not hit that like button? Why not subscribe? It's completely free and helps support the channel. But until then, I've been Professor King, and I will see you in the next one. Bye-bye!